You're listening to Rep Radio. Our goal is simple. We support, promote, engage, and inspire the arts community by igniting the ghost light that shines on the stages of the up-and-coming, the unsung heroes, the brilliant writers, and the dynamic designers. Our podcast breaks the fourth wall to give you an inside look at the plays and the players. Stay tuned. Rep Radio is on the air. Today on the podcast, director Jerrell L. Henderson drops in to talk about Azuka Theatre's 50th production, Reverie, by newly minted Pulitzer Prize winning playwright James Ijames. Here is my interview with Jerrell L. Henderson. Seven, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Yes. The Pointer
Welcome
Sisters.
to the podcast. I'm your host, Darnell Radford, and today I am in the virtual studio with director Jerrell L. Henderson. Jerrell, welcome back to the studio.
Hey, Darnell. How are you? How have you been? It's so good to hear your voice.
It is great to be here with you, and and the timing couldn't be more perfect.
Right.
I mean, literally, the news was developing yesterday, and I'm so glad that we had this interview today because we get to talk about a new play by the newly minted Philadelphia playwright, Pulitzer Prize winner James Ijames. And the play is called Reverie.
Yeah. 2022
Reverie.
Pulitzer Prize recipient.
Yes.
Who wrote Reverie. Yes.
And it is the 50th
he won it for Fat
production.
Ham, but yeah.
It's the 50th production of Azuka Theatre, which is also a milestone as well. There's just milestones all around. So
Absolutely.
We have to give a round of applause just for a minute here.
Yes. Yes. We need that person who just does that like high pitched sound when everybody's clapping and they just go like woo.
I know. Yeah, it's all the way in the back, and you know that one when the applause runs for too long and someone in the back goes like, yeah.
Yeah.
They just sort of added in like, are we done cheering? No? Okay.
No? Still going? Okay. Okay.
Anywho, it is great to have you here in the studio. I'm so glad you reached out because this production was on my radar, but I was I had a couple of irons in the fire, and so I was preoccupied. So I was glad that you reached out and we got this on the calendar. And now I'm even more excited to talk about this production. But before we get into it and gush all over, our best friend, everybody on social media is trying to be best friend, but our best friend. Before we get into it, let's catch up. What have you been up to, Jerrell?
Well, since the last time we spoke, which was Thurgood in 2019, that was the last play.
Long?
That was the last play I directed in Philadelphia before the pandemic.
That's right.
I directed Thurgood. I went back to, that's right. I went back to Chicago, where I live, where I am right now.
Chi-town.
Chicago, Chi-town. It's spring. It's finally spring in Chicago. Oh my God. Everyone's walking around like, the moment of the whiz after, the Evelines folks take off their clothes.
Yes.
Like, they take off those rubber suits and they're just kind of walking around stunned for a moment. That's kind of what things are like here in Chicago.
Brand new day. Yep.
It's like, oh my God, it's warm. It's warm. The sun has returned. It's really cool. No,
Exactly.
so Thurgood was my last thing. And so I directed the last play I directed before the theater shut down was Malima's Tale here in Chicago with Griffin Theater. It was a really phenomenal production. I loved it. I had so much fun. And it was my first experience with the Jeff Awards, the non-equity Jeff Awards, because they have the equity and the non-equity. And so, we had a really great run. It was we missed the last 2 weeks of our run. So we ran for a month, which is lucky because some friends of mine, their shows were closed. They closed the night before they opened, um, because of the pandemic. So I'm even though I am bummed that we didn't get our full run, we did get most of our run. I'm really grateful for that. And like the production was nominated for best production, lights and sound. One of our performers were nominated and won a Jeff Award for best supporting actor, Michael Turrentine. And I was nominated for best director. And then like theater went away. so, so
Lights
go
out.
out on a high note if you're gonna go out.
There you go.
Then everything stopped, and
Wow.
all the momentum I thought was gonna come from that went into puppetry. Because
Mm,
as you know, there was theater started happening online on streaming services, Zoom being the most popular one.
yeah.
But instead of focusing on that, I kind of pivoted and decided to. I love puppetry. I've always wanted to spend more time learning it, but I never had the time because I'm a theater director and I was spending all my time doing that. So once theater shut down, instead of investigating how to do the best Zoom play, I just kind of pivoted to a different kind of storytelling. And I also thought that puppetry lives in film in a way that theater doesn't, obviously, right?
Mm.
So I started teaching myself puppetry and started working with some puppetry folks. Chicago International Puppet Festival here in Chicago, obviously, as well as Handmade Puppet Dreams, which is Heather Henson's company, and working with Cheryl Henson, who is the older sister of Heather Henson, the daughter, both of them daughters of the late great Jim Henson. So I started working with them and helping to develop a few pieces. And I spent my pandemic doing two things. One, I created three short puppet films. One for Handmade Puppets Dreams, which was an adaptation of the Pied Piper of Hamelin called Hamlin. It takes place during like the Harlem Renaissance era, New York, and the Piper becomes an African American entertainment figure, and it's kind of my my commentary on how black artists, particularly the dancers, were treated in early Hollywood, how our talent, how our genius was made to heal, but those artists got robbed
Mm.
in many,
Mm.
many ways. And so that I did that, and then I was commissioned to. That was a commission from Handmade Puppet Dreams. I was commissioned by Chicago Children's Theater right again before the pandemic. I directed the Very Hungry Caterpillar show, which is a touring production, but when it came to Chicago, they wanted a Chicago director. They wanted to see like if it would work in like the Chicago black box scene. And so like they wanted a Chicago director, and it's in this, the theater's a theater, but it's like a black box theater. And so I had done that with Chicago Children's Theater and developed a really great relationship with the artistic director Jackie Russell. And so during the pandemic, she saw me doing puppetry, and asked if I might want, that we can't do theater, so do you think you would want to create something reflective of the pandemic? And I said yes. I brought in my good friend and colleague Caitlin McLeod, who I went to Northwestern with. She was a costume designer, but she's also a set designer, and she's an incredible puppeteer. Like, I have amazing ideas, but she can build stuff. She can actually make things. um, and so we co-created it together. I directed it. She designed all the pieces, and that came out on MLK Day,
Mhm.
2020. And that was great. We got an amazing review in the New York Times. Like,
Come on, New York Times,
if you
showing
had
up.
told me that my first positive review of the New York Times would be for a short puppet film, I like really didn't see that coming. But I'll take it because
That's great.
and then Chicago International Puppet Theater Festival here in Chicago. offered me a commission. I had been developing another short piece called I Am the Bear, which took a look at police profiling. A couple years ago, I actually found the date in my phone. But a couple years ago, well before the pandemic, I was working in Wilmette, which is a suburb of Chicago. It's similar to like King of Prussia, similar to Radnor. You know
Hmm.
those places you have to take the special trains to. um, Paoli. It's kind of
Yeah.
like those spots. Wilmette, and I was going to my job there. I worked at a movie theater at the time, and the cop stopped me, and the phrase that she used was, "You fit the description." And that's all she said. That was the only
Oh,
justification she had for stopping me and questioning me. And it stuck in my head because that's the phrase that you hear all the time. That's
yeah.
the phrase that police officers use in order to justify murder
Mm.
sometimes. And so, anyway, it stuck in my head. And so I had been developing this piece for a couple years and working with Chicago International Puppet Theater Festival. I was able to develop with a handmade puppet, which is rare for me because usually the puppetry that I create is shadow puppetry or like puppetry film. I don't want to act anymore. I'm good. I spent the first I started acting when I was 7 years old. I stopped acting when I was 27. So I got I've spent a good amount of time in front of audiences. It was beautiful. It was fun. I don't need to do it anymore. So usually I'm not on screen, but in I Am the Bear, uh, uh, my director Blair Thomas, who's the head of the theater festival, was like coaching me, like, "Come on, man, it's got to be you." I'm like, "We can hire an actor to play me, and it'll be great." And he's like, "No, it's your story. It's come on, you got to be the one to tell it." And so I was developing this as a one man in person show, but they got funding to make a short film. And so we made a short film in 2020. And that has done well. I was interviewed by WTTW, which is a local station here in Chicago, and kind of got to tell my story. And so that's kind of what I've been up to. And it's really cool because there are folks who only know me for theater, and now there are folks who only know me for puppetry, and are surprised I'm a theater director.
Mm.
And so it's just really cool. So I found the pandemic, as horrible as it was, gave me that gift. I was fortunate enough to be able to, survive it like the rest of us. And then doing that was able to develop this new gift. And so now I'm not only a theater director, but I'm also a puppeteer. And I call
Puppeteer.
myself a puppeteer. I'm continuing to direct it. I actually just got a fellowship, Sam Robertson Fellowship. Sam Robertson was an actor and director in Chicago. He passed away a few years ago. Just an amazing human being. I never pretend that I knew him well. I was actually just getting to know him when he died. Because I mean, you know how it is, Darnell. The theater world is small, but the
Hmm.
black theater world is even smaller. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? In
Yeah.
terms of people, and so you see people around, and I would see Sam around, and we began to speak. So he passed away, and the League of Chicago Theaters created a fellowship in his name. And so last year the fellowship went to a playwright. This year it went to a director, and it went to me. So I was given a good amount of money. The theater company that I'm working with, Free Street Theater here in Chicago, they've been around since 1969. They serve like black and brown communities. They serve the folks who go to see their shows aren't necessarily the folks who go to the Goodman or go to Steppenwolf or go to the big theaters downtown. And so we get to create a piece with and for like working people, the kind of folks who raised me. I didn't grow up in the suburbs. I didn't grow up with a lot. I grew up in South Philadelphia on 18th and Reed before it was gentrified. When you couldn't pay white people to be there after 6 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it wasn't the reality at that time. So
Hmm.
that, so the piece that I bring that up because it's going to be a combination of large scale shadow puppetry and musical theater. Because that's kind of what I really want to experiment. If you're going to, give me an opportunity to produce something original, that's the direction I'm going to go in. And it's a mixture of both puppetry and live theater because those are my loves. And also history. And I'm wrapping this up because I know it's a long answer. But the last thing, I got a lot done during that pandemic, man. I had some time on my hands, let me tell you. Uh, but the
I
last thing I
mean, it
did,
sounds like you haven't done much at all.
yeah,
Twiddling your thumbs, waiting
yeah,
for the
just
world to change.
waiting for the world to catch up and figure out what it's going to do. But I also I had started collecting African American theater and musical theater vinyl albums. But during the pandemic, it became kind of personal to me. I was really looking for a sense of gathering ancestral voices, and I
Hmm.
was looking to build community. And so I started an Instagram page called Black Theater Vinyl Archive. And I started collecting not just African American theater, musical theater vinyl records. So I have Whoopi Goldberg's Broadway show on vinyl. I have the
Wow.
original, Pearly, Raisin, The Wiz,
Mm.
Yubi, the great black musicals, Carmen Jones. But I also started collecting vinyl albums from Afro British, Afro European, and African vinyl albums. And so I have albums from Nigeria, musical theater pieces from Nigeria, musical theater pieces, the original London cast of King Kong, which was a 1950s musical about a boxer, and Miriam, the late great genius icon Miriam Makeba was in the chorus. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Of this musical, and it's an amazing musical. And so I listen to them now to meditate. I actually had a few vinyls waiting for me because, as you know, I've been in Philly for the last month, and I just got back yesterday. And my husband kind of looks at me like, "You got like 5 albums waiting for you, man. Like, like, can you please get these out of the doorway?" you know. But I'm cataloging them now. I have just over 300 albums from all over the world,
Wow. That's
and
amazing.
it really is like a culmination of what what folks like us who are a part of the African diaspora, what we have contributed to world theater. We've
Yeah.
contributed a great deal. I have, all of the Ella Fitzgerald songbooks. That counts. I just got Oscar Peterson plays the Cole Porter. That
Mm.
counts. I have a couple Bobby Short albums and show reviews that featured the late great Bobby Short because that counts. That counts as a contribution as much as Hamilton with the contributions of Leslie Odom Jr. I found an album called Genius on the Black Side, which is in the 70s. James Earl Jones was commissioned by the United States Social Security Office to produce a radio program that would play for a couple minutes every weekend to
Wow.
educate African Americans about their Social Security benefits. And so it's like, this is James Earl Jones, and this is Genius on the Black Side. And he talks a little bit about Social Security, and then he would play a pop tune, or he would play a comedy album, or he would play a little bit of Aretha Franklin. And
Hmm.
it's a really great testament to, the late great Sidney Poitier, who we just lost. We
Yeah.
just lost him. He's an ancestor now. God rest his
Mm.
beautiful spirit. He had 2 albums of poetry that he read. That counts in terms of, the contribution of black artists and what we've given. And so that's kind of how I spent. That's what I've been up to. And the second I was offered an opportunity to direct in person again, and it was a James Imes play, I mean, it was like, yes,
Correction, it's a Pulitzer
Pulitzer
Prize
Prize
winning
winning. A play by the
James
Pulitzer Prize
Imes
winning James
play.
Ives. Yeah, actually, oh my God. I kind of want to say that to him the next time I meet him, like, just to be a smart ass. It's like, hello, Pulitzer Prize winning artist James Ives. But then I probably won't do that because by the time I see him again, 50 people probably would have already made that joke. So, well,
Yeah.
you heard it here first, folks.
This is well, I mean, this has been a week of, blaxcellence, if you will,
Oh my goodness. It's been in
with
between. So, oh
Tony
no. Yeah. Yep.
nominations, Pulitzer
Yeah.
Prize, the Doctor Who announcement. I feel like there's so many things
Yeah.
that in this week
Yeah.
alone, it's just, I can't take it.
It's really been a celebration. It was when, again, I was talking to my husband Ricky about this, who also, even though he's not in theater, loves theater, and it's he's an immigrant from China, and so
Mm,
American theater is part of how he has come to familiarize himself with American culture, and it's
yeah.
something we can both talk about. But I was telling him I really like how many new names you're beginning to see in the award season. It's not the same. It's some of the same names from the past 10 to 20 years, but especially this year with the Tonys, there's a lot of new names out there. There's a lot of people like, oh, I don't really know them as well. I need to look them up. Oh, I don't really know them as well. I need to look them up. And I love that because if our culture is going to grow, then it needs to grow.
Yeah.
It can't just be, and that's not to say that I don't have love for the folks who have been around and been making art. Those are the folks who inspired me and continue to inspire me. But there always needs to be a renewal, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And now folks like you and I get to be a part of that. And that's the beautiful thing about getting a little bit of age on you. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? You can then be a part of that renewal. James is now a part of the renewal. You
I
know
know
what I
I'm
mean?
very much
It's
blown away at the
beautiful.
fact that I even know people on Broadway.
Isn't that amazing?
It's
Isn't
like
that amazing?
I don't know why it just never crossed my mind that I would know someone, but even Caroline or Change was nominated
Yep.
as well, and the the actress playing the Moon, Nikenji, was in
Mm.
a reading that we did in September with this
Oh,
play
nice.
development group in New York called The Farm, and I was just like, "Are you kidding?" I mean, they
Yeah.
knew, but I'm
How
sitting
about
there like, "Oh
that?
my god, I can't believe this!"
Yeah. That's so funny. Speaking of the moon and Carolina change, I was just hanging out. I went to New York a couple of days, a little 2 weeks ago or last week. I can't remember because everything's a blur at this point. um, I took a week off once I got back. I'm gonna try to not do anything for a week before I dive back into work. But
Yeah.
I went to the public, ironically, and I
Hmm.
saw the flyer. I remember seeing the flyer for Fat Ham and
Uh
being
huh.
like, "There's James's play."
There
Who
it is.
little did we know what was coming. But I went to see Suffs, which is a new musical about the suffragette
Hmm.
movement, and one of the performers in that play is the great Aisha Dahaz, who was the Moon in the original Broadway cast of
Oh
Caroline or Change.
wow,
Oh
wow.
my god! And she was laughing at me. I was like, "Oh my god, I can't see you without hearing the song Moon Change." And she was like, "Oh my god, Jerrell, like really?" But I got to hang out with her a little bit, and then saw the musical rather. Um, the great Nikki M. James is in that as well. It was like a really good evening of theater and a lot of information that, you kind of hear about the suffragette movement, but it's always good to see a piece of work that just goes a little bit deeper. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah. Oh, and then of course, right before I left, Sunday afternoon, I took my last trip to New York for now, and saw MJ the musical, and
Okay.
had a blast. Yeah, I
Yeah.
really liked it. I really, really liked it. I thought it
I
was
mean,
so well
you
done.
just remember like those songs were bops before we called them bops. All those songs were hits way back when, and everybody can pinpoint a moment in time in growing up when they were listening to Michael Jackson. You know,
He was such an influence, and it is important that we figure out how to unpack his influence,
hmm
because it is
on
so complex and
the
complicated.
world,
That's exactly right. There were people in
global
that audience.
superstar.
First of all, I went to see it on Mother's Day, and the performance sold out. It was sold out. So the house was
Yeah.
packed. And there's something about, especially as an African American, there's something about being in a theater with hundreds of people from literally all over the world, every color, every shade, tall, short, like every body type, and we're all in agreement about how this music has informed our lives,
Mm-hmm.
even
Yeah.
as we try to make peace with the artists who created it. You know what
Yes.
I mean?
Yes. Yes.
It doesn't mean that we're not aware of the reality. We're trying to figure out how to navigate that. And I appreciated two things. I appreciated that the script, which was written by Lynn Nottage, I don't
Mm-hmm.
remember the director right now, so forgive me. I appreciated that the script and the direction had a clear point of view in terms of the story that was being told. And I really appreciated how the director used, Broadway level technological elements to speak to the often emotional and psychological complexity of his life and what he was dealing with. Um, because that's one of the things that theater can do well. The design was an extension of, the lead character, Michael Jackson's psychological and emotional state. And so the use of I mean, it really kind of blew my mind, and I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it. I just knew I wanted to see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I left the theater on such a high because it reminded me of the positive things that he contributed to global culture as an
Mm-hmm.
African American, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. And then I came back to Chicago, and then I talked, and then James won a Pulitzer, and then I talked to you.
Yes. Just so we can give that credit, director of MJ the Musical was Christopher Wheeldon.
Yay!
Christopher
Thank you, thank you,
Wheeldon,
thank you, thank
director and
you.
choreographer.
Christopher Wheeldon. It was so good. It was so good. I really enjoyed it. I really, really did. I'm gonna try
Yeah.
to take my mom, and now I've said that on here, so I have to do
Yes, yes, you do. Okay, so we're 25 minutes into our conversation, and now that Jerrell is done bragging about his pandemic time.
You asked me what I did. Listen, I was just going to talk about the show Reverie.
Oh
Okay.
no, I love it. I love it. I love it. This is another it's 25 minutes of black excellence. I hope that's what y'all came for, because that's what you're
That's what
getting.
you're getting.
And we ain't done yet.
Nope. We're just getting started.
Yes.
Just getting started.
So tell me how. Tell me when you're sitting there waiting for your next, in person, on stage, directorial opportunity, and the Pulitzer Prize winning playwright James Ijames uh, wrote this play, Reverie, somehow got it into the hands of Azuka Theatre, and how did it come across your desk?
That's really easy. I have to imagine that I was one of the last artistic people brought in on the process because they've been working with this since before the pandemic. I learned later. I got an email from Kevin Glockham from Azuka.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Jerrell, we're looking to produce, James Imes' new play Reverie for our 50th show at Azuka, and he already had my attention. You know what I mean? We have a new James Imes play, and it's going to be
You
our
had me
50th
at new James
production.
Ives.
It's good. Well, also, it's going to be the 50th production at Azuka, and
Yes.
I've been
Congratulations,
around long
Azuka.
enough.
50
Yeah,
productions.
I've been around long enough to remember when Azuka was like this upstart theater company,
Mm-hmm.
um, and to see it grow and flourish, and again survive the pandemic. You're going to hear
Yes.
me say that a lot because that's. I mean, it was. One day we will know how to talk
It's
about
called
the time period
resilience.
that we're in. Anyway, so I got an
Yes.
email from Kevin Glockham, and I jumped at it because I like James's work. I have always liked James's work. I told
Mm-hmm.
James in another another interview when he wrote Miss Martha. I was at Northwestern in Chicago, and I saw that was being produced. And that day that I saw that press release, it was running during the summer, which was great because I don't have school in the summer, and I bought a ticket to Philadelphia specifically to see that show because I wanted to know what a James Imes play looked like. And when I saw it, I was sold. I saw a reading of White when it was at People's Light. I saw Kill Move. I saw his reading of Kill Move Paradise when it was at Victory Gardens for the Ignition Festival, and I saw the full length production when it was at the Wilma. Like, I have been following his work. I've been in conversation about his work with other artists here in Chicago, especially because I'm from Philadelphia. And so what
Hmm.
would happen, and this is, I mean, this goes back 6 years at this point. What would happen is a person would come to me and go, Jerrell, you're from Philadelphia. Have you heard of this guy, James Ijames? And I'd be like, yeah, he's, he's a big deal.
Refresh my
What's
memory.
up?
Who?
The Pulitzer Prize winning
Pulitzer
writer,
Prize?
James
Yes. Is
Ijames.
it Pulitzer or Pulitzer? Does it
I
matter?
say Pulitzer, but I don't know
Pulitzer?
that it matters.
Pulitzer if you're
I try to
nasty?
be fancy just in case I'm wrong. Um, but yeah. So that would happen a lot. Hey, you're from Philadelphia. Have you heard of this guy? And I'm like,
Hmm.
yeah, he's a big deal, and I've seen his work. It's good. You should produce it. And if you need a director, let me know. Like, that was my spiel. Um, so that didn't work out. Those didn't work out. But his work gets done in Chicago quite a bit now. He's an ensemble member at Definition. Miss Martha is going up at Steppenwolf in a few months, really a few
Mm.
weeks.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, that's
and
right.
someone just produced White. So he's Kill Move Paradise was done just before the pandemic. In fact, when theaters shut down in Chicago, if I'm not mistaken, there were three shows that were the highest rated. Kill Move Paradise by James was number one. Bug at Steppenwolf was number two, and my production of Malima's Tale at Griffin was number three. Like,
Hmm.
that was the last thing I remember before all theaters shut down. So like, James's work gets a lot of love here. So again, when Kevin emailed me, it was kind of a no brainer, and it was a chance to
Yeah.
go back to Philadelphia, which I always welcome because that's my hometown. I stayed in my old neighborhood this time. I literally stayed in the neighborhood that I grew up in while I directed this new play about healing. It was
Wow.
perfect. It was perfect.
So what were your thoughts? The play is called Reverie. What were your thoughts, first impressions of the piece?
It reminded me a lot of some of the other work that I've done. I love work that's lyrical. I love work that is poetic and has heightened poetic language. And so that element of the script spoke to me. It's also a play about grief and healing, which has kind of been the story of my life for like the last 10 or so years. I'm on a
Mm.
slightly different road right now. But that was kind of what I'd been living through. I actually wish that a play like this existed when I was, 18. I could have
Hmm.
really used it, but you play the hand you're dealt and you live the life you live, and I'm grateful I lived long enough to see it. I mean, it's not even that I was impressed. The script made sense to me. It reminded me of other work that I had done that has, a really ephemeral, watery nature to it, and it was about something that mattered to me, because that's the thing. It's like, and this is in, before any of this happened years ago, when I wrote my thesis, when I was graduating from Northwestern. That's where I got my MFA in directing, here
Hmm.
just outside of Chicago. I wrote in my thesis that I wanted to create art that deconstructed history. I want to explode history, not
Mm.
because I want to destroy history, but because I feel like, you know what a brush fire is? It's like, I feel like history has all this dead brush around it. And in
Mm.
order to get to who we actually are and what our history actually means, we need to devastate and wipe out all this brush, all this noise, and
Hmm.
actually get to the roots.
Yeah.
And so James's play reminded me of the vision that I had and what I wrote years ago. And one of the reasons why I wrote that, it was the greatest gift I gave to myself, that thesis. Because every time I think about that thesis, I'm reminded of the kind of work I want to produce. I'm reminded, when the puppetry film Diamond's Dream is about a young African American boy trying to navigate grief and loss in the middle of a pandemic. Hamlin is about, trying to, calling out, for retribution and action for, crimes of the past. It's all about raising awareness. It's all about Black beauty. It's all about Black resilience, um, and humor. and discovery. And so his play had all of that in it. And so again, and it's a 90-minute play. That's
Mhm.
poetic. Oh, come on. Yeah, let's go. Let's go. That's the kind of room I want to be in.
Yeah.
Period. And I'm
So
actually really glad it happened before the Pulitzer stuff because that's going to color everything from now on. But
yeah.
Reverie was kind of my last experience with James's work before that. And so there's something really delicious to me about that.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about resonance. You
Hmm.
know, when a piece resonates with you, when you can connect it to a point, to a moment in your life that is similar, does it change or inform your way forward in terms of your direction, your vision, or because you know how sometimes there's this mindset. It's like, well, I stepped up to the challenge. Like this was something I had to learn and discover, and these are things that I learned in it. But if there's things that like resonate already in it, like how does that make you feel in terms of your approach?
Okay, so my approach to theater that excites me, because the play excited me. So my approach to theater that excites me is akin to like a 10-year-old who goes to the top of a slide or a diving board. You know what I mean? And you're like, oh my God, that's so cool. And I just want to see what it's like to be there. And then you climb up there and you see you see the drop in front of you. And then you're like, oh my God, how am I going to navigate this? But the energy, the passion that got me there and the energy of I know I can do this, I just have to figure out how, is how I navigate the inevitable fear or insecurities of the challenges that present themselves once I get to the top of, the sliding board, if that makes
Hmm.
sense. So
Yeah.
honestly, my first thought was, after reading the play, my first thought was, oh my God, I want to direct this. I'll do anything I can to direct this. Let me know what I can do to direct this, because I think I can direct this and I think I can do a good job. Once
Yeah.
I got the job, then it was, okay, how am I going to direct
How
this
am I going to do
play?
this?
That's really how it went.
I may have oversold myself.
I
I'm not going
follow, I,
to.
I follow what excites me. One of my professors, Jessica Thebus at Northwestern, would always say, "You have to follow the heat. You have to
Hmm.
follow your heat. If it
Yeah.
excites you, it's that's gonna you're gonna figure it out because you're gonna want to figure it out."
And it has urgency.
And it has, that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's something that I need to do now because I'm being given the opportunity. And that's a gift. It was a gift to be offered this play. And I did not take that gift for granted.
Hmm.
And I wanted to tell, James said to me, we were talking about the script while I was directing it. And he said there's a lot of fantasy in there for him. As a queer man, we're the same age. As a queer black man, we've each had complex, loving yet complex relationships with our family in terms of black religion and our sexual identities. And
Hmm.
so he said to me that there are some aspects of the play that are fantasy for him. There are things that he wished happened or he just wanted to see on stage because he had never seen it in real life. And that's true for me too. That's
Yeah.
true for me too. My mother, who's still with us, knocking on wood, um, she lived long enough for the two of us to have honest conversations about my life and how it fits into how I was raised. But my
Mm.
dad died in 2012. So when there are certain events that happen on stage in Reverie, when I'm directing them, I'm directing how I wish some of the interactions with my father had gone. I didn't live
Mm.
to see that reality, but I can reflect that reality to help other people who are still alive reach that reality that I never got to live, that I will never get to live. And to me, that's revolutionary. And I want to create
Yeah.
revolutionary theater. I mean, it's just that simple to me.
Yes. Well, let's dig a little into family dynamics,
Hmm.
as I'm pulling from the description, family dynamics that can make that so challenging.
Oof. Yeah. Yeah.
Is that, yeah, do you think that is sort of commonplace for all families, or unique, unique struggles to, families of the African diaspora, or
I
what are
don't.
your thoughts on that?
Short answer is yes, but the longer answer is I don't really know. What I
Mm-hmm.
do know is and I am a queer black man. I grew up a queer
Yeah.
black man in a very religious environment and in an environment that was teeming with homophobia. Okay.
Mm.
In my journey of life, in my life journey, I have met other black men my age, a little bit older, a little bit younger, who have had similar experiences. So I know, because of that, I know that I'm not the only one. But there's also that thing of, even even if I hadn't, so much of so many hmm, there is so much of this topic that is coded in shame. I
Mm.
mean, it's like an M&M. It's like there's like this hard candy shell of shame around this center that could be this delicious new discovery. It could be
Mm.
this delicious new discovery, but first you got to get through. Or no, M&Ms are good. It's like an old school blow pop, like the candy. Like the candy's tasty, but it might break your teeth before you get to the gum. You know what I mean? Um,
Yes.
because so many conversations about what it means to be black and queer in families that are often also religious are covered in
Mm-hmm.
shame. A lot of the experiences have gone unspoken. It's one
Yeah.
of the reasons why, when I was in college and I started discovering the films of Marlon Riggs, Tongues Untied, that meant a great deal to me, because before seeing that film in college, I had never seen a film with black men discussing what it meant to be gay, what it meant, the conversation of, like, what snapping means,
Mm-hmm.
what back talk, those verbal exchanges mean. When I first read The Colored Museum, I was an undergrad. So I was 19 or 20 the first time I read The Colored Museum. I had never encountered a character like Miss Raj before. The queer character who dresses in, Annette Funicello's outfit from, Beach Blanket Bingo or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
who talks about, being an alien in New York City and her ability to snap her way to power. One of the things that this play does well is that it begins the process of creating a vocabulary that has never existed before. And
Yeah.
that's powerful. This play can become the beginning of conversations that move beyond shame. And I told James that, for one of the things that his play did for me was it taught me that if you can get the shame out of the way, shame is like smoke. You know that old jazz standard, smoke gets in your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, shame is like smoke. And Reverie taught me that if you can get some of that smoke out of the way, some of that shame out of the way, you can actually begin to pinpoint that pain that's been terrorizing you all your life, and you can begin to heal it. Reverie isn't about coming to the end of a healing process. It's about how you get to the beginning of a healing process. And the
Yeah.
great thing is, when there are few things more pleasant to me than when I feel like I can start to heal from past pain. Because I don't want to carry that shit around anymore. I'm sick of carrying
Yeah.
that around. And I've been trying to lay it down for years, but I don't know how, because there's no vocabulary for it.
Yeah.
Reverie provides vocabulary. Now we can build. Now we can grow. Now we can cry it out. Those aren't pleasant feelings. But sometimes you don't feel good unless you have a good cry. You
Hmm.
gotta get that out of you.
Yeah.
And Reverie provides space for that.
I
So,
always feel like
yeah.
a one act ends where it begins. You know what I mean? Like
I hear you.
it's like
Yeah.
the ending. It's like, and now the healing can begin,
That's
and now that
right.
you have the backstory, now we can move forward.
Yeah.
And it's like it's great for the audience too, because it's like now we're going to play catch up for 90 minutes, and
Yep.
then when you walk out of here, go.
You know what I liken it to, and I'm 110% serious. So there's a lot of biblical references in the play. I won't go into detail.
Mhm.
Well, I'll give one away. The main character's name is Jordan. And if you know African American history specifically, you have some understanding of the significance of that name in the River Jordan. The Ohio River was often referred to as the River Jordan because if slaves could get across the Ohio River, they would become free. They were granted freedom. There's a song in the black church called Wade in the Water.
Mhm.
Wade in the water, wade in the
Yep.
water, children. Wade in the water. God's gonna
God's
trouble the
gonna trouble the
water.
water
That song used to frighten me as a child because it's written in very dark
because
chords.
it's haunting.
It's
Yeah.
haunting, and I remember, we would have baptism every first Sunday, and the church is still there on 18th and Wharton. It's not called the same thing anymore, but it's still there. I walked past it and took pictures. That was my boyhood church. That is one of the places I grew up where black people showered love on me, and I didn't realize how special that was at the time because I was a
Mm.
kid. But we would have baptism every first Sunday, and they would sing that song. And I would ask my mom, "Why do they say that? Why do they say God's going to trouble the water? That's scary. I don't like that." And my mom was like, "It just means to stir up. It just means to
Mm.
activate." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." James's play is the troubled waters, man. It is the troubled waters. That's what you step into. And when you step out of that play, you have the potential to walk away spiritually anew. It doesn't solve your problems. That's not the point of the play. It doesn't make everything better. That's not the point of the play. The point
Mhm.
of the play, like baptism, like God troubling those waters that you go into, is to create an environment where you can shed some of that pain and some of that stuff you've been carrying around, and you can walk forward with a new sense of purpose.
Mhm.
That's the point. With a new sense of purpose, you have a deeper understanding of how to navigate this crazy ass world. That's the point. So that's what Reverie is, and that's how I described it when I was directing it and when I was talking to the designers. This is the
Mm.
troubled waters, and the troubled waters are fun. The troubled waters are murky. The troubled waters are uncomfortable. The troubled waters take time, but when you come out, you have a new set of tools to handle this world and the nonsense that gets thrown at you. And when you're black and queer, those are some tools that have been a long time coming.
Mm.
It's almost prophetic. In fact, I would go as far as to say it is. At least it was
Taking
for
us
me.
taking us to school here. I'm
Yeah,
writing notes.
it's a really special piece, and it's
Yes.
short.
Yes.
It's short. He's not going to hold you there for 2.5 to 3 hours. It's short.
Mm.
It's a
Yeah.
baptism. You go in, you're held down for a little bit, you come out. That's what it is. And hopefully
Now,
that's how the audience will feel, though not guaranteed.
yeah. Now, take us into the rehearsal room
Sure.
with this ensemble.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So, Philadelphia, and I'm saying this on record, but you know that I believe this because I used to be a Philadelphia actor before I became a director and moved to Chicago. Philadelphia has some of the best actors in the country, period.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Okay,
You heard that here. We can quote that.
it is. I mean,
Philadelphia
it's some of the best
has some of the.
actors in the freaking country. Okay, I saw Wilma's Cherry Orchard and was like, these actors are unstoppable. You know what I mean? I'm watching our actors for Reverie. I saw the art in Breaking. What was it called? Our Eric Thompson's play. Oh no! Oh no! The memory play. Brent was in it. We were just talking about him. Oh my goodness! Please forget. Charge it to my head and not my heart. But
I'm gonna. I'm gonna make.
it just
I'm
closed
gonna
at the
make you work
Arden.
for this.
It just closed at the Arden. But I saw that and was like really impressed. Mel Finnister's in it. Anyway, so we're talking um, David Bazemore, who played Jordan, the
Mhm.
graduate student who's the protagonist of the play. You have Justin Mitchell, who played Lucas, who was the embodiment of the spirit of the young man who died,
Mhm.
Lucas. And then you have Damian Wallace. And you can't see me
Yes.
smiling because I have my phone off, but I have I have my camera off rather. I have this giant Kool-Aid smile on my face. Damien, who
Hold on,
plays
I
the
gotta pause.
father.
Gotta
Mhm.
pause for a second because I don't want to leave the audience hanging. The play he was talking about is backing track.
Backing track.
Pardon.
I was like breaking
Our Eric
track.
Thomas
Yeah, my brain kept saying it's
interviews
breaking track,
in
and
the collection.
I knew it wasn't breaking track. It's backing track. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Darnell, for letting me off the hook finally after making me do that. Ugh.
It's something happens when you see a record light. You know, when a record light, all that stuff you've been gushing about, talking to
Yeah.
everybody about how you've been moved throughout the year. You're like,
It's like,
um,
no,
uh, with the.
no. Come back. I promise. It made a decent impression on me. I was moved by
Yes.
your piece of theater. I promise you I was.
We love our Eric
We
Thomas
really
on
do.
all of our podcasts. We
It was a
love.
really solid production.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Damon Wallace who plays the father, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
So the rehearsal room, uh, I mean, I try to be really straightforward in the rehearsal space. I try to be to try to define the story that's going to be told, so that
Mm-hmm.
the cast and the designers can begin building toward that. And if there's anything that's unclear, that's great because let's clarify it now before the audience shows up. I have a saying that I got from a friend of mine. You know, whenever I would miss something or someone else would miss something, I would go, "It's okay, better now than opening night." You know, like let's just be
Mm.
glad we caught it now. That's what rehearsal is
Yeah.
for. And so our rehearsal became a space in which we could have really honest conversations about what it meant to be queer black men in America. Damian Wallace is not a queer black man. He is just heteronormative. And
Mm-hmm.
so he got a chance to listen, to hear, you know, there were stories that I told. He's known me. Damien and I did our first show together, and I want to say like '05 or '06. I've known Damien for a very long time. We did Our Town at the Ritz way back in the day. And, and we've known each other and worked together a couple of times since then. And there were stories about my journey that he never knew. He's like, I never knew that's
Mm.
what it was like for you. I never knew you were going through that at that time. And I'm like, well, why
Mm-hmm.
would you? You know, I was like, we weren't, you know, we saw each other, we were friendly, but you know, we weren't going home together. That's not, it's something personal. So it's not something that I would talk about extensively. So he got a chance to learn that it became a space where the elements that are in the script were infused by our experiences in life. We built what I believe and what I hope is a community in which we could navigate some of the really tricky topics that come up in the play. Um, and it was a playful space. We laughed a lot. And sometimes we cried together. We
Yeah.
gave each other space. We were patient with each other in terms of what we each had to learn. You know, because, you know, I'm the director, but that doesn't mean that I have everything figured out on the first day of rehearsal. So it was a space where we could have patience with each other and we could just create. And we knew we had something special when we did the designer run because the folks who would come into that room would be like, wow, it's so peaceful and calm in here. wow, it's so pleasant in here. Wow, y'all seem to have everything under control. It's not that we had everything under control and figured out. It was just how we were navigating this really tricky subject. So, you can ask the performers about their experience and whether they had the same experience. But that's what it was like with me. I have great respect for those performers, and I treated them like the brilliant artists that they are. You need time to go over that? No, let's stop what we're doing. I'm going to give you time. Are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure. You need time. So let's give you that time now. We have it. This is rehearsal. I would, if I felt had seen enough to move on to the next scene, I would say to them, you know, I'm good to move on. Is Do you need to go over it again for yourself or something that you need to work through? Because that's what you do when you work with artists of their caliber.
Yeah.
You give them the space that they need to be the brilliant creators that they are. You give them notes with respect. You respect their time and you respect their genius. So for me, it was easy working with them because every day I got to play with them was a gift. And that's not something that you just say in an interview after it's all over. It was a lived experience that will go with me for the rest of my days. And that's one of the reasons why I direct and love theater.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really important to me. Those actors are gifted.
Yeah.
And when you meet folks who are gifted like that, you better be coming from a place of absolute respect. It doesn't mean you can't give notes. It doesn't mean you need to be a doormat. It doesn't mean you have to put up with nonsense. But what it does mean is you come at them, letting them know I'm aware of who you are and what you have to offer. And I will never do anything that intentionally fucks with that. Because you don't
Yeah.
fuck with genius unless you want to get burned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's an interesting creative team here
Oh,
attached to
yeah.
this as well.
Yeah. The creative team was a joy to work with. From, Marie Laster, who, I worked with on Untitled, who created what I believe to be a really well functioning set that operates on multiple levels, in terms of not only being the literal space that's necessary, but creating the environment in which the supernatural things that need to happen can happen in a way that's reasonable. The lighting design by Dom, which literally pulls in a supernatural world. You know what I mean? You can see the supernatural. At least I could see the supernatural world moving through the world of the play, and then you pop, we're back in the real world. Supernatural world's
Mm-hmm.
gone, and we're in an apartment, and then the supernatural world kind of creeps back in. The sound design by Larry Fowler. Larry's a genius. You know what I mean? I've worked with him on Salt, Pepper, Ketchup. Larry is a genius. And so he creates the sound design that walks this balance. It is unapologetically black, and it is both normal, everyday, and supernatural. It floats on the in between. And for a play like Reverie, that's what you need. Our
Mm-hmm.
costume designer, Ariel, her costume design doesn't just clothe characters in the 21st century. Her costumes go to the core of who those characters are. When you see Damien as Paul, those clothes are Paul. There are
Yeah.
biblical references in his clothes and not just the cross that he wears because the character is a reverend. I'm talking about his pants, his shoes. You know what I mean? The clothing that David wears is Jordan, is reflective of the emotional and psychological state he is in at the beginning of the play because that's where you find him. And similarly with Lucas, I always get those two names mixed up. Oh God, rehearsal was so much fun. Um, and Lucas, the young man who died, he's free. So out of all the characters, he looks the best because he doesn't have any more worries. And
Yeah.
his goal is to get them to let go so he can live his best life in the afterworld.
Mm-hmm.
He needs them to let go a little bit. We'll always be with each other and I'll always be there. But in order for you to move on, you got to let me go. You can't
Yeah.
hold on to the past. And it hurts
Mm-hmm.
to let go of a past you thought was going to be your reality.
Yeah.
Again, there's no vocabulary for that. None that I know of, anyway. And so this play provides an opportunity to do that. And the elements of design go directly into the story that I was interested in telling based on the recipe. After opening night, James gave me a hug, which meant a lot. He gave me a hug and said thank you, and that he felt full from the production. And my literal response to him, and I'm using that word correctly, literal, my literal response was, "You gave us the recipe. You gave us the recipe, man. Thank you. You gave us
Yeah.
the instructions." And all that we created came out of that. That's beautiful, man. That's kind of how I saw it. The script was the recipe. The actors are the cake. The actors in the story are the cake, and the design is the icing. It all goes
Mm-hmm.
together, and when it goes together well, it's delicious. Some of the best, some of the best treats have hints of tangy or sourness in it that mixes with the sweetness that gives the sweetness a pop it would never have without it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something that's
Yeah.
all sweet can be overwhelming. Something that's all sour can be overwhelming, but sometimes you get a nice blend of a little bit of sour and a little bit of sweet. Boom.
It sounds like the formula for overall production of a play.
Well, that's the hope in a perfect world.
Yes. Well, so I enjoyed David Bazemore in This Bitter Earth
Man.
at Interact,
Yep, I saw it.
and Damian Wallace and Ozzie Jones from way back, all the way back in
Oh yeah, Ozzy. I
2010,
read
as a
yeah.
part of a production that I produced for Represent called A Matter of Seconds
Yeah.
with Banji Girl Productions,
Yeah.
and Justin Mitchell's making his Azuka debut.
Oh my goodness.
So
Just watch out. That
amazing,
oof.
amazing ensemble.
Yeah, and it was full of we again a space where especially as black and brown people, man, because theater is not always a safe space for us. And by safe
Yes.
space, I don't mean a space that kisses our butt. I just mean a space where like you're not getting hit with microaggressions every 5 minutes. You know what I mean? That's
Mm-hmm.
what I mean by safe space. I mean the unnecessary nonsense. But because we
Well,
had so many
I love the
dedicated
fact
people of
that
color, yeah.
everywhere we go, we know somebody here.
Isn't it sweet?
I always see like Larry Fowler and I worked together years ago. Curtain Call Creations for Maureen Mullen Fowler,
Mm,
his wife, started this company way back when, and I always love getting into a space saying, "Oh my God, yeah, I know I've worked with them before. I know them. Like this is great." Thinking about how long, uh, we've been activated
yep,
and active
that's
in this
right.
community,
That's right.
and watching the community grow and thrive and come into its own. Like even through all of this, I mean, it's been nothing but just proven resilience, left and right. Like
I
2008,
mean,
2009, we got this.
yeah,
This pandemic was a long intermission. We got this.
yeah.
And now here we are. We are coming out of this even stronger.
The fact that there's a production in which Marie Laster, who's relatively new in the scene, I say this is someone who's been working in Philadelphia on and off since '03. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So Marie Laster, who's relatively new to the scene, can work on a production with Ozzie Jones, who's been around longer than I have. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's what theater is supposed to be about. So she can look at myself and Ozzy and Damien and see some version of where she could be in 20 to
Mhm.
30 to 40 years. And we get an opportunity to look back at folks like her and Justin and Deanna, who was the lighting assistant, Miranda, who was our backstage, who's the backstage assistant. Um, and we can look back and get wisdom from them, and fresh ideas and thoughts and perspectives from them, and also be an ear because they're dealing with some of the same stuff we were dealing with then. And we can be like, yeah, that will be fine. Just kind of work your way through it. This, don't put up with that shit. Put your foot down now, because if you don't put your foot down
Yes.
now, it's going to be creeping up for the rest of your career. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It was really beautiful to see, Larry and Ozzy and even myself at times being able to interact with these younger artists who are
Yeah.
professionals who have degrees but are just beginning to get a hold in a business that we've been navigating
Hmm.
for years now.
Yeah.
I mean, the atmosphere in rehearsal, the atmosphere in tech was peaceful, man. We had a peaceful, which is not to say that there was an absence of tension. Of course, there was tension. Of course, there was. There's always tension. You don't get anything worthwhile without tension. But I worked really hard, and Azuka worked really hard to make sure that the tension was always productive, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And if it
Yeah.
wasn't productive, it was noise, and the noise got to wait outside. You know what I mean? I'm not denying that noise exists, but wait outside the rehearsal room. We'll deal with noise once we're done working here. We go back out into that crazy ass world. The noise will be there waiting, but not here. And here, we're going to try to create some righteous shit, and we're going to try to do it the right way. And the right way means you treat people right, you honor folk, you respect their gift, and you do your job. Period.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, it was really, really special. Again, that play, I was also healing as I was directing it.
Yes.
I was also learning.
Well,
Yes. Yeah.
well, that sounds like a good moment to invite the audience to get lost in one's thoughts, which is the definition of reverie.
It is. Yep.
The production, the 50th production of Azuka Theatre Company, and it is written by the Pulitzer Prize
Woo!
winning
Woo!
James Ijames, directed by the dynamic director Jerrell L. Henderson,
Yeah.
and this ensemble is amazing. And you have to get over here. Azuka makes it so easy for you to be a part of this
Tell them
conversation
about it. Tell them about it.
because every production is pay what you decide,
Yes.
and all you have to do is decide when you want to come.
Yep. And they
So
even
you can
take
go to the
Venmo now.
website. Yep. You can go to the website, click reservations, pick your date, and show up and be a part of this conversation. Jerrell Henderson. The best part of the thing I love about interviews like this is I barely say much and I take all of the credit for such a great interview.
Well, you set me up well. And like
Exactly.
I said,
Exactly. And you knock it out of the park.
well, I'll take that and thank you. Listen, I haven't been complimented enough in my life to pretend like I don't enjoy it when it happens. But no,
Yes. I think it was.
every time I work in Philadelphia,
Mhm.
I want to talk to you. Period.
Yes. Yes.
Period.
And please don't forget me when you have too many handlers around you who want to keep telling you like, why do you want to talk to Darnell again? Wait a minute. Wait a
See, but
minute.
that's the thing, Darnell. If
Hold on a
anyone ever said that to me, that would be the last time we were together. That's the thing.
I'm like, what happened to your
Yeah,
manager? Well, I said I wanted to do this interview,
they
and
questioned it. And
now
that's
they're
not
not my
how I
manager
roll.
anymore.
That's not how I roll because you and I go back, right? You and I go back
Yes.
to historic
Yes.
Philadelphia. We have roots together in this city. And
Oh my
I have
God.
watched
Oh,
you
oh
grow
man.
and you have watched me grow. And you've always
Yes.
been a decent human being. You've always been
Hmm.
kind. You've always been generous. And you've always been fair as far as
Oh,
I've worked
stop
with
it.
you. No, it's true.
Stop
No, I'm
it.
not going to stop
Stop
because it's
it.
true. And people don't say it often enough. It's true. So you want to talk, we talking. And if you don't reach out to me,
Yes.
I'm reaching out to you. Period.
Yes. And I appreciate that. And I love being a part of the conversations that you steer so dynamically. And I can't wait to see this. I have my tickets.
Yay!
When am I confirmed for?
Yeah.
Friday.
Oh, goody, 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 goody.
As we're listening to this now, it'll be Friday the 13th when I will come see it.
Even better.
You probably won't listen to this until after I've seen it, but listeners, but get to Azuka Theatre and be a part of this conversation. It's Reverie. It's Azuka's 50th production. Again, do I need to tell you again? It is a new
A
play
new
written
play.
by Pulitzer Prize winning playwright James
That's
Ijames and
right.
directed by Jerrell
Yeah.
L.
It's a
Henderson.
new play, y'all. It's a new
It's a
play.
new play,
It's a
y'all.
new
Play.
narrative. Go out there and support
New.
those new narratives, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Love the old
Yes.
stuff.
Yes.
Live for the old stuff. But let's support the
Mm-hmm.
new stuff because anything
But
not
when there's
growing,
new
that's
out
right.
here, yeah.
Anything not
Yes.
growing is dead. And James is one of the major voices in America right now. So go get yourself some, go out
Mm-hmm.
to quote the great, late, great Lena Horne, go out there and get yourself some live. Go get yourself some life and some love. Go on. You deserve it. You've earned it. Go get
Yes.
yourself some reverie. Go on. All right.
Yes. Go
I'm
on out
done.
there,
I
get yourself
promise
some
I'm done
reverie.
now.
Yes. All right.
Promise I'm done.
Okay, so that's you got the details. Get at it and be a part of this conversation, Jerrell. It's been a pleasure. I'm gonna have you hang on, but I want to thank the
Sure.
listeners for tuning in to this Black Excellence episode of the podcast. It was truly a pleasure, and I always enjoy talking to you. And I look forward to our next conversation.
All right. I look forward to it as well. Thank you, Darnell. Thank you for always making time. And thank you for always being such a wonderful host. I always feel so at home when I talk to you. And I think some of my best interviews have been with you. Just let me go. You just let me go.
Great. Yeah, that's the whole point. That's the whole point. And I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
I'm glad to lend you my microphone at any time.
Yay. All right.
Rep Radio is an Emory production. You can find Rep Radio on social media at Rep Radio on Facebook, at Rep_Radio on Instagram and Twitter. For more information, visit us online at em3ry.com. Ride with us. Emory is on the move.